Tony Blair, you will have seen the news, I think it was at the weekend actually, that he has been given a knighthood. Well, there's a lot of people very unhappy about that. I think there was a topic about this earlier this week as well on this show. And at the time, there was kind of rumblings that people were not happy. Well, things have accelerated since then. Various petitions have been put up saying that he should be stripped of his knighthood. And one in particular has got over 700,000 people calling for that knighthood to be removed. Of course, he was given this title by the Queen this year as part of the New Year's honours. The petitions are basically saying that because of his role in the Iraq War, he shouldn't be honoured in this way. Keir Starmer, of course, has defended Tony Blair, saying that he's earned the knighthood. Joe Phillips, should he have this knighthood, Tony Blair?
I think it's very difficult, isn't it? Because he is always going to be defined by his own fault, by the Iraq War. And that means that everything else that he did, which, you know, some people might not agree, but there were many good things that the Tony Blair era and Tony Blair's government did during his period in office. The difficulty with this, of course, is it is a personal gift, a personal honour from the Queen. And it's the Order of Merit. It's the highest honour of chivalry. So there are all sorts of arguments about whether you can, whether we should overhaul the whole honours system, which obviously crops up every new year and every time there's a whole load of honours handed out. I think from Tony Blair's point of view, in order to save the Queen embarrassment, he should say, in order to save you embarrassment, Your Majesty, I'm, very grateful, blah-de-blah-de-blah, but I feel I can't accept this.
They must have known there was this controversy, though. Well, it's taken them years to award
yes,
him.
and that is the other argument, Michelle, that actually 14, 15 years on, that's precisely why they've left it this long, because, normally it would be within few years. Now, you could argue that he deserves it for 3 terms as Labour leader, many, many good things that they did, not least of all same-sex partnerships, and Sure Start, an investment in early childhood years and education. There are good things, but they have been completely obfuscated by the Iraq War. And, of course, the people who went and fought and died and lost loved ones are quite rightly and understandably absolutely furious, and many of them are saying they'll hand their medals back.
Yeah, and Alex, Alex Deane, by the way, I forget, many of you might be listening on radio now, so just a reminder of my panel. So Alex Deane, PR consultant, I'll come to you. Joe Phillips there, political commentator, has just mentioned lots of the good things that Tony Blair did, whether it's Sure Start, people might talk about things like minimum wage, etc. But I would say, well, that was his job. He was just doing his job. I don't understand this whole notion of you doing a job, you get paid to do your job, so what do you need honours for?
So it's a funny situation, because you're right, I'm a PR consultant, you're a political consultant, but also you're a Labour person, I'm a Conservative person.
I'm not, actually.
Well, forgive me, I thought that you were, but certainly you're more of the left than me, let's safely say that. And you think Blair shouldn't have his knighthood, or at least should give it back, and I think he should take it, and I think it's fair enough. I have a view on this that pleases no one as a Tory. My view is that actually fair enough for a 3-term Prime Minister to be knighted.
Yes, I broadly agree with that, but I think it puts the Queen in a very difficult position. And we know about advice.
No, the Queen's put the Queen in a difficult position. Well, because she knew that this was going to be the outcome, hence the delay, and they've chosen to proceed anyway.
Yeah, but,
Can I just come...
Kerry Dingle, for the radio listeners out there, filmmaker extraordinaire.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Well, for me, Tony Blair is a loathsome militarist, warmonger, and more than anything, in recent times, anti-democrat in his attempt to get Brexit reversed. I've got no time for the man at all.
Oh, say what you think, Kerry.
A real problem saying what I think, obviously. But I do think this is all a bit of a nonsense, to be honest.
Yeah.
Him running around with the Order of the Garter and a Garter or whatever the knighthood conveys on him, it's not the same as him being in the House of Lords, which I would be very angry about, because I think the Lords should be abolished as an anti-democratic institution. I don't really care if he fannies around with honours and titles, because actually the government and a lot of his government, and unfortunately quite a lot of Tory MPs too, all backed him on WMD and on invading Iraq, just as they did with his adventures, military adventures, which killed a lot of people in Afghanistan and in the Balkans. So I just think it's slightly posturing to oppose this particular award when there were so many people who are responsible for a terrible war that killed so many.
I also think you make a good point, Kerry, that, you know, there are some absolute dreadful people in the House of Lords. Some of whom have got there simply by buying it, you know, by donations to particularly the Conservative Party. So, you know, there are worse.
He's not going to the Lords. So that's
no, but that was Kerry's point.
I agree with it. It would have been different. If they suggested he should go to the Lords, I might be more of your perspective. But for me, an honour, a pure, simple honour that comes without any further responsibilities or anything, not a return to public life in that sense, for me it honours the office and not the man. And it honours that period of time, the long 10-year period, when this country was profoundly changed by political leadership. Now, as it happens, I disagree with a great deal of what he did. But it's not about the policy for me. It's about the fact that an appreciable percentage of this country believed in Blair, believed in Blairism.
And 3 times.
Voted for it and followed it through. Now, on the other hand, it's not about, when I say it's not about honouring the man, I think he's sought to enrich himself in the grubbiest ways after office, and he's sought to oppose democracy after office in the ways that you suggest. So I agree with that. But for me, it's an honour that isn't about his time after office. It's honouring the time in office, and it's as much an honour for the government that he led as it is for the man himself.
But why does the office, you're saying about the office needs to be honoured? This is the bit that I don't really agree with. These people are doing their jobs. They're paid very handsomely for doing their jobs. They'll be paid even more handsomely in the circuits afterwards, autobiographies and speeches and all the rest of it.
But for this particular honour, Michelle, you could say that about, you know, David Attenborough. You could say it about David Hockney. You could say it about any number of people who are in that very close, I think there's only 24 members. So you sort of have to wait until somebody dies in order for a vacancy to come up.
But
artists are only doing their jobs. Scientists are only doing their jobs. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
So you would want.
But I'm against all of that. I think do your job to your best of your ability.
Your problem isn't with Tony Blair being knighted. Your problem is with having an honour system.
No, I have a bit of both actually. So my problem is I would pick up the honour system and shake it all around
and switching.
a bit.
When you argue A and we oppose you on A, you say, how about B? How about the honour system being bad then?
No, I'm not. So what I would say is I'm against two things. So I would pick up the honour system and shake it about. I wouldn't award people honours just for doing their jobs.